This is the 24th episode of the Deliberate Talks podcast. Hello, and here is welcoming you every week with kindness, awesomeness, and amazing conversation is me, your host, Dakshin Adyanthaya. And on today's episode, I have a gentleman who has beautiful life stories to tell. In fact, his work speaks volumes for inspiration to learn from. But before we listen to his journey of social impact, here are a few facts for you. Did you know the first ever NGO in India was the Bengal Home Industries Association, which was founded by the nephews of Sri Rabindranath Tagore in the year 1915. According to the Central Statistical Institute of India, there are more than 3.4 million NGOs registered in India, out of which 55 to 60% of them work towards rural cause or rural development, while close to 40% of them work towards social causes and around 1% of them work towards environmental concerns. And finally, according to UNICEF, India has more than 30 million abandoned children, and hence most of the active NGOs work towards children education and development. And one such individual with his family of volunteers is doing an amazing work for children and their family is our guest today. But more with him right after this intro.
This is the Deliberate Talks Weekly Podcast, powered by the Pixelated Egg Digital Ventures. Tune in every week to learn something new about digital marketing and entrepreneurship. And now, over to the voice of your host, Dakshin Adyanthaya. Enjoy the show.
So on today's episode, we have someone who's graduated in journalism. He also has several books published, like Mumbai Smiles, The Trip That Changed My Life, which is also a bestseller translated into 8 different languages. Apart from this, The Song of the Concubine, The Power of the Smiles, and The Seamstress of Dhaka. He's also the co-author of a photogenic book, Bombay Beyond the Smiles. And apart from all this, he is the founder and general director of Mumbai Smiles, a non-profit organization that focuses its joint action with the communities of slums of Mumbai in a peaceful struggle against poverty. Here's introducing Jaume Sanllorente. Hello Jaume, welcome to the Deliberate Talks podcast.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Fine, excellent, very good, very, very good.
Jaume, firstly, thank you so much for being a part of the Deliberate Talks podcast. It's great to have you on the show today.
My pleasure.
Great. Mumbai Smiles. You know, the name itself has got such a great vibe to itself. Tell me a little bit about your journey. I've heard a lot about it and I've read a lot about it, but I want to hear it from you and tell me a little bit more about how Mumbai Smiles happened to you.
Well, I was a journalist in Spain, in my native town, Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working in an economic magazine and I had a holiday. So I didn't want to come to India, but they convinced me somehow in the travel agency.
Uh-huh.
So I came here, and the last day of my trip, I met a small orphanage that was in a very difficult situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I just knew very clearly what I had to do with my life, which was coming back to Barcelona, selling my flat, leaving my job as a journalist, and creating an NGO to make sure that orphanage could continue.
Wow.
And here I am after 16, 17 years being a Mumbaikar.
Fantastic. And how has the journey been so far?
Difficult, honestly. I mean, I could do it a million times more, but it has been difficult. Imagine how it was with, for a boy from Barcelona that had it all, because my life was very salt and very nice and because some big changes in life, sometimes people associate them with the drastic changes or maybe dramas or things that you're trying to run away of. But it was not my case. My life was perfectly fine, was happy, and I complicated it a little bit by doing that. But it has been difficult, obviously. Imagine, as I was telling you, for somebody from Barcelona with no experience with other very different cultures, with the social sector, to come to live in a slum in Vasai, because the first 3 years I was living in a slum, Vasai, with no light, with no electricity, with no water, wondering everything about the Indian culture that nowadays it's a little bit my culture, but at that time it was quite a shock. So it has been difficult, but happy.
Right. And happiness is all that matters, right?
Exactly.
Great.
And as I told you, I could do it like a 1 million times again.
Fantastic. Java, your Mumbai Smiles say transforming future. What is the transformed future according to you?
Well, in fact, that motto gave us like a lot of, food for thought for at least 1 month. All the team participated in what should be the describing sentence of our work. And honestly, if I could go underneath or I could go like back to the past when we decided that, I would say giving freedoms, because transforming future, sometimes it means that you are transforming a person's future the way you want to do it, that you're shaping that future. And what we do is we give all the tools through education, through health, through livelihood, to make sure that that person is going to construct his or her future, but with freedom, from freedom. I mean, I think that the thing that I valued the most in life for the others and for myself is freedom.
Right. Fantastic. And as COVID-19 struck, Jaume, and lockdown was imposed, how did it all affect your mission? What were the changes and the challenges that you really faced during this lockdown?
Well, it has been one challenge after another, definitely. First of all, imagine we work in a lot of educational projects. For any school, it's let's say, I don't know, a middle high class school in Mumbai. It's very easy to say, okay, we shift online, because they are sure that all the kids are going to have connection, are going to have internet at home, are going to have electricity, are going to have a computer or a mobile. But in our case, we must think of families that don't even have light in their house, no electricity. So it was a huge challenge to make sure that one by one, all the families had good connectivity, had the tools to have that online education. Also, we had a lot of challenges in terms, well, as you know, like it destroyed a lot of livelihoods, a lot of jobs. So it was a big challenge because, people were like saying us, forget about online education. We cannot feed our kids. So we had to start to do like food distributions that we never did before. Right. So the logistics of that itself, it's quite challenging as well. So it was a challenge after the other, but, we survived and we are surviving because it's still going on. And yeah, I think that, it's like the lotus flower, no? Sometimes out of the worst waters, most beautiful flower can emerge. And I like to think about Mumbai Smiles during these times like a lotus flower. We really found ourselves in positions that we thought we could never be in, we could never, go on with. And we did. And we are very happy at that, yeah.
Yeah. And how many families are these, if I could understand?
More or less, I could say it's like 1,000 families, households, what make more thousands and thousands of citizens benefiting from the NGO. So really, it has been like, we were working like 24/7,
I'm sure.
to make, especially the first days, because, we had to identify which ones had light, connectivity, had no light. Like, it was because we're talking, a lot of times we're even talking about families who live on the street, literally. They don't even have a small place, shanty in the slums. They live in the street. So it was very, very, very challenging. But as I told you, out of these challenging times, we discovered a lot of things, good things about ourselves, how strong we are as a team as well, the unity between the team, that connection that, I don't know, made us emerge with more strength, with more happiness, and with more hope to keep on working for the betterment of the poorest communities in Mumbai.
Wow. 1,000 families and getting the logistics right. That's commendable. What's interesting is a lot of people want to do something good, and most times they don't know how really they can be a part of such initiatives, apart from the fact that they have to contribute money. And here you're making 1,000 family lives better. I personally would love to know from you how difficult it is, firstly, to start a non-profit organization in India, and how does one really need to go about it if they want to start one?
Yeah, well, there are two things here with this question. The first thing is like, one thing is to be involved, that will go to that point.
Right.
And the other point is how to start an NGO yourself. To start an NGO, if somebody's listening right now, I would say don't be crazy, have a better life and don't do it. but having said that, a lot of people, as you say, it's true. A lot of people don't know where to go because sometimes there's a lack of knowledge of
Right.
the sector or a lack of trust, which I
Right.
understand. No, sometimes you can think, okay, if I donate to this NGO, I don't know where my money is gonna go because I don't know any NGO deeper enough,
Right.
like to trust them. But the matter of trust can be solved by asking information, asking papers, asking for transparency, things that it's very easy to check. And the other thing is that when people think of volunteering, people think of the things they like. Okay, I want to go there and play with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
But the most important thing when you help is to look it and to see it from the perspective of the person you are helping or the NGO you are helping.
Right.
Because we found in a lot of times that no, I want to play with the kids. No, but what we need right now is somebody putting 1,000 letters in 1,000 envelopes in the office. No, I don't want to do this because it's boring. Okay, then it's not a real help because you're helping yourself. You're not helping us.
Right.
And then a lot of people also, one thing that sometimes it's lacking, I believe, it's the real commitment. Imagine that somebody is I don't know, let's say graphic designer right now. He wants to collaborate by designing material to the NGO, which is a big help because then we save the money of paying graphic designers to do that.
Right.
But what we always ask them is please be serious and committed with us the same way you would be with a client that would pay you. Otherwise, don't do it. Because then it's not fair. It's not fair that we have to wait, 2 months to have a material that we would like to have in 1 week, for instance.
Right.
So it must come from inside, really develop a job that you could do it with anyone paying or not paying.
Right. Makes sense. Right.
Yeah.
And this is from the volunteering point of view. How about going about and starting your own NGO? What does really need to...
Well, what I told you as a joke, in fact, it's not that. It's more serious. It's extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. Especially, see, when people say like, NGOs, you can never trust. Believe me, all the bureaucracy we have to go through, all the controls we have to go through, all the paperwork we have to go through, it's impossible that you have a single small space in the NGO that it's not controlled. So all this paperwork, to be honest, and you know that I think right now after almost 17 years living here, being a Mumbai car, I feel myself as, I am less Spanish and more Indian. So I can openly say it, like, that bureaucracy in India, it's quite a big thing and quite a drama sometimes.
Right.
It can take ages to solve any permission. It can take ages to get one paper. So all these things, it's sometimes, honestly, it became it's becoming very exhausting because it's a time that you could be investing in something else, in identifying new families, in my case, for instance, as a general director, in making new plans, in designing, opening doors, for instance, as a commercial, which is part of my role as well. And sometimes this moment, these hours I have to spend in filling all these forms and papers and going there to sign these and to the bank and this and that. And sometimes that can be very, very exhausting. With somebody that is just starting an NGO, or it started already an NGO, and feels the same at times, that it's very exhausting and maybe it's not worthy, I just suggest one thing. Get lost for one day, go without mobile, without computer, without anything. Forget about the papers, forget about the emails. One day, and go to the communities you work with and you work for. And that day, you really understand again that it's worthy to keep on fighting.
Right. Makes sense. So basically, to conclude it, it's a very tedious process to start an NGO here, right? But like you mentioned, you have 17 years in the stage of work life. I want to know from you again, What does the future of social work look like? What's in store and how does one lead and thrive in this sector, most importantly?
It's a very interesting question because I deeply think that, see, years ago, it used to be NGOs where, let's say, less professionalism was required, or people thought so wrongly, where it was like another wall, let's say. And then there was the market wall, the shops, the companies. I do think and deeply that within the next year, both walls must touch each other, must be approaching each other as they are already doing. So it means that NGOs should take more formulas that can be close to any company. What I mean is that instead of asking for charity for the whole day and for money for the whole day, maybe, I don't know, start, social ventures, start companies made by the beneficiaries, things made by the beneficiaries, promoting the livelihood of the communities you work with, but with, being realistic about the market-driven world you live in. And at the same time, I do think as well that the commercial, the economic market, the banks, the companies in general should approach much more the social benefits of the society. It's worthless if a company is just creating money to create money and to hold and to hold and to hold. Right. I really think that NGOs should look at the companies and companies should look at the NGOs, but not in a way that the company is donating as a CSR. Okay, we give you a check and that's it. No, in a real world in a real partnership where they work together and that at the end, maybe in 10 years, it will be exactly the same. A company than an NGO.
Right. Like you rightly mentioned, it's always a one-way giving process right now. A check is given and the responsibility is concluded.
And it's ironic because the NGOs, all of us, we talk all the time about self-sufficiency of the community, but forgetting that we are not self-sufficient as a sector. So we should be self-sufficient as well.
Right. Absolutely. Jaume, now from a Mumbai Smiles point of view, tell me some fascinating stories. Of course, the place has made many lives better, but tell me a few that are close to your heart.
Yes, I'm very glad and very happy to share with you a story that will happen before New Year. As I told you before, the NGO started with an orphanage, 40 kids.
Right.
After those 40 kids, new kids start coming from the streets, from stations, from brothels as well. Even they were like, I don't know, 11 years old, 12 years old, and they were like being exploited in brothels in Kamatipur in the red lights area for prostitution. The nice thing, I obviously won't give you the details about their past, but the nicest thing is that within a few days, I'm attending the wedding of 2 of those kids of the orphanage. And I'm so happy because, Kiran works successfully in a sales company, and Vijay is a very good chef at a very good hotel in Mumbai.
Wow.
So when a few months ago, Vijay came to me like, "Sir, I'm getting married and because I'm so in love and what's her name? Kiran." And then I said, like our Kiran. And he said, no, in fact, he is our Kiran. And I was so shocked, like, how come? You're like, this is almost incestuous, like you're like brother and sister. But yeah, and it's so happy for me. I think it's the most special wedding I will be invited to. It's amazing to see this, a part of the love they have between each other, a part of the whole, story. Right. But the fact that you see 2 free, we were talking about freedom before, you see 2 free individuals with a successful career, being able to start a family, and that you had a small or big, I don't know, but you had a contribution in that. You made that possible. To me, really the most emotional thing ever.
Apart from that, you're also the Cupid.
Yeah, exactly. I am. Otherwise, they couldn't be married. I am.
Lovely, Jaume. And all this from the Freedom Talks, the independent success stories. Tell me a few feel-good stories from the families or the volunteers side.
A lot of stories. I couldn't end. Like I couldn't finish telling you. Like even we have a story. For instance, I give you another story of Prafulata. Prafulata is a member of our team.
Okay.
She used to be herself the mother of one of our kids. So
Okay.
she was a person from the communities. And then we had this new project starting years ago called LSE, Life Skills Empowerment, to make sure that the kids, apart from the school, they had other kind of education, because we think that education is not just the academic educations. There are a lot of things lacking in nowadays education in the schools that we think they should be, they should be encouraged as well. I don't know, sexual education, values education, education in values, a lot of things, experience in everything in life.
Right.
So we were about to start this, and we saw that, Prafulata, in the parents' meetings that we had, meetings with the community, she was kind of a leader, like she was like always taking part of and organizing and helping.
Right.
So we asked her, like, okay, why don't you work with us? Let's make a trial. So she started successfully. She didn't have the whole, the whole school finished, but, it was like a 2-hour thing every day. So we thought, okay, it's okay. Let's start this way. After 3 years, maybe 3-4 years of working with us, she comes one day to the office with chocolates, and I asked her, like, what's going on? What are we celebrating? Without telling us anything, she asked for a loan to the bank. She finished her studies.
Wow.
After finishing the regular studies, she started a master's on social work. She became the number 3 of her promotion.
Wow.
And nowadays she's a great employee member of our team. So stories like this, we have a lot of them. And in this case, for instance, Prafulata got involved with us. But in these last years, we have helped more than 10,000 people from the slums in Mumbai.
Right.
Out of these people, I mean, I don't want that they have to remember or they have to give us something back. As I told you, we want them free. So free means that if they are free and they want to forget us because it connects them to bad times that they went through or whatever, they can do it freely and openly, and we are happy about that, because it means that, that they have a very good life.
Right. It goes back to what you said in the beginning, when you were saying, when you are in doubt, leave your phones aside and spend some time with the community. Now it all makes sense, right? It totally makes sense when you hear these kind of stories and what value it adds to life. Fantastic. I must say this is very inspiring already, Jaume. But tell me, just like you, in what capacities can people be a part of Mumbai Smiles?
Anyone, really anyone, because they connect, as I told you before, they connect that always the volunteer work must be only that kind of work, like teaching some kids. Or no, we have very good teachers for that. We have very good teachers with the title, with everything. Any person, for instance, right now, maybe a lawyer is listening to us. And he or she may think, no, a lawyer, what they will need a lawyer? No, we need a lawyer to, review the whole MOUs that we sign every year. Or a graphic designer, we do need graphic designer. Or a journalist, we need a journalist to I don't know, for social media, for instance. So we always need people from all the fields, always.
Right. Apart from all this, whose support do you really need to successfully run a mission like Mumbai Smiles?
Well, obviously, the main thing, and it may sound terrible after what I said, but the main thing we need nowadays, obviously, it's money. Obviously. Right. But that money sometimes can come in a different form. Can come, for instance, I don't know, imagine that somebody's working in a milk company. For instance, for the food distributions, instead of buying milk every year, we could have X amount of milk, every month, to make sure that the whole families are covered.
Right.
So it's a lot. At the end, it's the same. It's exactly the same.
Right. So basically, it isn't always about currency, but it could also be in the value of currency in form of support, food, things that these children and family need, right?
Exactly. And right now, we recently opened a small bungalow outside Mumbai in the area of Virar.
Okay.
And with a few women that we rescued from Kamatipura, that they were victims of this terrible slavery of nowadays called human trafficking.
Right.
And they are starting a new life there.
Right.
We are now starting to train them to make different things: purses, masks nowadays, masks, fabrics, cushions, pillows. So we are starting a social venture very soon, and we are starting our own brand. So selling all these products, it will be also a way of income for the NGO.
Very good. Very cool. And tell me about the Smiling Bus. How did you get this idea to initiate? And how did you initiate this idea? And what does it really do?
Yeah, I'm coming from the Smiling Bus right now, in fact. Literally. I was in the Smiling Bus 1 hour ago. See, the thing is that sometimes families, especially in some areas in the city where we're not even talking about the slums, even worse, like some, settlements in the middle of temporary settlements where they live, because the whole day they send the kids to beg in traffic lights or door of hotels or things like that.
Right.
So we thought that because it's very challenging sometimes to convince them that take your kid outside, now you have an income that won't be there because you have to send your kid to this place called a school. And obviously it was challenging, it was difficult. So we had the idea, and especially for another thing, because a very challenging thing that we faced in Mumbai that couldn't happen in other places in India, it's that, as you know, it's a very changing city. What 2 years ago was a slum, today it's a luxury tower of, big apartments. What it used to be a bar nowadays has been demolished, and it's a garden for the neighbors. So it's changing. So we thought that it was not as stable as well if we started like one school in one area next to the slum, because obviously they must feel that it's nearby, where they can, check that the kids are okay, etc. So we thought, why don't we move as well, like the city? Then we created this concept of a Smiling Bus, which is a school bus. It's a school. The bus is the school itself. So it goes directly to the communities, X days per week, and it does the classes there. So this way, the family, it's not that challenging for the families to send their kids, away or whatever, because they see what's going on. At the same time, part of our staff, like for instance, the health department, can check other things in the community, can check other aspects. Right. And those kids receive at least the first year a kind of non-formal education that can take them the next year to a formal school. Right. And we are very happy about the Smiling Bus. The Smiling Bus that, by the way, related to that COVID question, this year won't be so because all the kids are receiving online classes. So this year it's an awareness tool in different areas about COVID. So because we didn't want in that situation to have, 20, 30 kids in a closed space, even though it's, we've been told it's safe, but we prefer not to take that risk. So this way, this year it would be a moving exhibition about meat and about things about COVID, because that was one of the main things we had to fight against at the beginning. They thought, no, it won't affect us because it's a virus for rich people. Or if you drink a lot of alcohol, it will never get to you. Or things like that, that even today, after 7 months of virus or more or less, even today, they still believe sometimes. Even today, we have to be like, all the visits 1 hour ago, I had to be the whole time, please, the mask, because, no one was wearing a mask. And, so it's important also to look to the areas in the city that are not that covered by information being, from any government or from any. So helping and contributing, in that regard, and making sure that all these, the maximum information reaches them about the pandemic.
Lovely concept. So basically, if you can't go to school, we'll get the school to you, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Nice motto.
Fantastic first round of conversation, Jaume. I'm going to quickly move into my favorite round of rapid fire, but right after this plugin.
Friend us on your socials and let's connect.
So this is a rapid fire round, and a few questions in quick fire is coming your way. So ready for this?
Oh, okay. Yes.
Great. 3 reasons why people should be a part of Mumbai Smiles.
Transparency, enthusiasm, and meaningless with being human.
Okay. Why do you think people are skeptical to be a part of social missions?
Stealing the money, the main one. Yeah. About the NGOs, even about the beneficiaries that receive that help.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've heard so many times, why to give if they spend everything in alcohol? How do you know it? Did you ask him? Did you see him drunk? No. Then why you say it?
Right. Okay. What's the minimum contribution one can make for Mumbai Smiles?
Even 1 rupee.
And in form of kind, could you elaborate on what kind of contributions they can make? Like laptops, food, or any other thing?
Books, electronic, toys, clothes, food, especially food this year. Yeah, basically this.
Okay. And apart from the fact that they're getting married, tell me the most amazing thing someone has told you about your work.
I still remember, and I will always say it, Heman, one of the kids at the orphanage. And I'm 44 right now. That birthday, it was 30. And I still remember that they asked all the kids at the orphanage to say like a nice thing about me or about the work or about whatever. And they all said, yeah, the education, the food, everything. But there was one, Heman, I will always remember. He said, because of Mumbai Smiles, I got a skate. And I could skate as a kid. I was always watching when I was living on the street. And to me, still I get emotional when I remember that, because he was saying, because of you, I can be a kid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not talking about human rights. It's not talking about such a simple thing as being allowed to be what you are, a kid. And as a kid, play. That's it. And Heman is a big IT person right now, by the way.
Oh.
He works in a department of a company as the head of IT. Yeah.
Fantastic. Nice. So you believe if someone is privileged, they should work towards helping others because... Complete the sentence.
Because if you have a right accomplished, if you have a privilege, you should as well accomplish your duty. And I think not even as privileged. Every human being has the duty of being useful to the rest of humanity.
Right. Beautiful. Nice. And finally, how does one get in touch with you?
Sending an email. You can go to the website, mumbaismiles.org.
Okay.
And there you'll find all the departments, all the contact, all the telephones, numbers, emails, etc. to get in touch with us and contribute.
Right. Very cool round, Jaume. I'm quickly moving into our last round of question. And this is from a thread again, which states, I run a small NGO, but how do you involve corporates and other individuals to be a part of your initiative? What are some of the tips to make a perfect pitch to them?
Appeal to the heart. It may sound naive. Even we had through that period at the beginning where we were appealing the heart, and then we said, no, we have to be more technical and more professional. But we thought that if we, were more serious or more, more cold or more, we could seem more professional. So we wanted, to send all these reports with a lot of technical words. And now, after the years, we came to that first period of ours when we were like appealing the hearts. At the end, as I told you, being the CEO of a big company, being the head of CSR, being whatever, everyone has a heart. So the heart and the souls are the only part of ourselves that can understand each other.
Wow. Excellent stuff, Jaume. That's pretty much the end of our conversation.
Oh.
And, I thoroughly enjoyed today's conversation, Jaume. I got to say, firstly, you are a great storyteller and an amazing guest with a lot of inspiration to share, both personally as well as professionally. I hope you had a good time conversing on the Deliberate Talks podcast.
I had an amazing time, really.
Great. I wish you and Mumbai Smiles all the very best. Keep this energy alive, Jaume. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Well, that's it for today's episode. What a lovely job, right? While we all struggle to make our lives better, there are individuals who live to make others' lives better and also give us an opportunity to be involved in their beautiful stories. Right then, if you have any feedback about this show, you can mail it to thedeliberatetalks@gmail.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and the social media platforms of The Deliberate Talks and the Pixelated Egg Digital Ventures. Join in this Friday for a bonus episode. Until then, have a wonderful week ahead and don't forget to inspire and be inspired.